Hello and welcome to episode 75 of the Do Up Big Shit Today podcast. I am Hannah Mulhern. I'm your host for today. This will be actually a solo episode and the first episode of the new year. So let me officially say Happy New Year. I hope everyone's 2025 is off to a terrific start. All of the amazing manifestations and opportunities are heading your way. I'm putting it out there in the world. And I can feel it for you. It feels good to be back. I took about 2 weeks off just away from the podcast space. I let my brain just sit for a minute, and it felt really good. It felt a little odd at first to not have episodes going out for 2 weeks. It felt like there was something missing, but I think that space allowed me to realign on what I believe this podcast should steer to in 2025. So a lot of 2024 was, races and endurance athletes, and that's not going to change drastically, but I do want to start incorporating a bit more topics in regards to mental health. I want to talk about mental health and athletes. I want to talk about it. I think it's not talked about enough. And as someone who's been, I hope from the listener's perspective, transparent about, my mental health in regards to navigating anxiety and stress and weaning off of the medication that I was on. There's an episode out there I think I released in August of 2024 that kind of goes through that. But one of my intentions for this podcast in 2025 is to talk more about mental health and other folks' mental health journeys, just so that the topic itself isn't as daunting or scary. And really the biggest thing is to help anyone who's listening not feel as alone or isolated, because I think through the friends that I have in my circle that have talked to me about their experiences with stress and anxiety, and I think it's very valid. I don't think it's a topic talked about enough. So that was really an amazing perspective or thought to have while giving myself those 2 weeks of just stepping away from the podcast and sitting and relaxing and breathing. So that was very, very amazing to reflect on that. And I'm very fortunate enough to have had that intuition to steer this podcast back into that direction, because originally, back when I started this in 2022, that was one of the reasons why I started this podcast, was to talk about mental health. And so I'm putting it out there into the world that keep your ears open for more mental health topics, because I really want to bring that back more as a common theme. So the topics for today, I have two that I wanted to talk about, and these came to be while I was on kind of my 2-week hiatus from the podcast, still working and enjoying the holidays with my family. But the two topics I want to talk about today was maintaining balance and then also navigating perspective. And the more you think about one, the more that the second one kind of bleeds into the first one. So to me, maintaining balance, and where I want to get kind of into the granular of where I've learned the most from 2024, is going after your goals with such an intensity that you almost lose yourself in your goals. And that's what I mean by, for me, when I say maintaining balance. And it actually is cool. I don't know if everyone, or I'm not sure if they do, their thoughts on New Year's resolutions and reflection and setting goals for 2025, but I love it. I know it's probably cheesy or corny or cliche, but I think how cool is it, a common time out of the year, the country, people around the world get together and think about ways they could level up as human beings and be just a little bit better the next year than they were the year before. I just find that really cool. But for me, setting goals is, I love it. I love seeing how I can grow as a person, how I can better myself, how I can internally prove to myself that I can continue to do the things that I think are challenging. And it's truly, at the end of the day, I do it for me and nobody else. But one of the topics, like I mentioned before, was maintaining balance, and how I think through 2024, how I completely, not completely, but I lost my way a bit in regards to just going after my goals that I had set with such tenacity that I didn't realize until I was on this 2 week relaxation with my family, stepping away, taking the life that I live that's pretty much at a high level frequency and just dialing it down a bit and allowing myself to have that space to recognize that, holy crap, I really, in 2024, not all of it, in 2024, I pushed myself so far that I think the majority of times when I was training or going after the goal, I wasn't even enjoying it anymore. And that was a really great thing to recognize, because, that's the beauty of failures, or challenges, or turbulence, is that you always have the ability to course correct, address, or fix them. So I think I've talked about some of the races I've done in 2024. I know a lot of folks that are listening are runners or athletes, and they have games, races, competitions, etc. And I think there's such a beauty and a balance of going after the goals and the challenges that you set for yourself, but not becoming so overwhelmed in the growth process that you actually forget to enjoy it or feel human. And for me, I knew some of the races that I signed up for were going to be difficult. I knew, the 100K turned 100-miler was going to be difficult for the mind and the body, and then the training leading up to it for just that race in particular. It was more the effect that had on my overall well-being from a quality of life perspective. So for me, I love what I do. I love that I have this podcast, and that will always be a priority. The training that I had put on myself of not just going out, and the race that I signed up for was not just elevation, it was an altitude. So it wasn't just a 30-mile trail run. It was, let's drive 1 to 2 hours to get to the trail. So we're in elevation and in altitude, run the long run, come back. So I trained, and then I also took it to another level where perhaps I didn't need to do that. It might have been a bit extreme. That's that balance I'm talking about. And then recently I'd gotten married in 2024, navigating being a wife and starting this new chapter, trying to keep my head afloat socially. Didn't do a very good job here. I think a lot of my friends were just like, we'll see you when you're done with your, like, they kind of knew. I also have a full-time job, which, pays the bills. So when you throw in all of these components that, for different reasons of why you have them, I have the podcast. It's where my passion is. I love talking to people. I love inspiring and empowering others to get out of their own way, to do the things that they want to do with their life. I love training because I can push myself in that avenue. At the end of the day, I was juggling so much stuff. And I don't know if anybody else does this, but it's almost kind of like when you're running and you're pushing yourself really, really hard, and you're like, how much harder can I push? How much more can I make this painful? Is kind of what I caught myself doing with the end of 2024 with all of these races, particularly my 100-miler. I was in deep shit trying to keep myself afloat, and I was like, I could do more. You're good. I could do, like, I kept egging myself on and digging myself deeper. And so throughout these 2 weeks where I've been able to, take a moment, I've recognized, like, holy shit, like, I was doing things for the sake of doing things, but the fun was no longer there. I would go out for a run because it was part of my training plan, not because I thought it was fun. And I think every runner or person who moves for fun and movement, training, working out, whichever, not every single day is supposed to be fun, but you're disciplined enough to do it. I'm talking every single run. I was like, well, we have a training plan. We have something to stick to. I was so caught up in doing things because the training plan said to do them, and not taking an extra 5 minutes of, holy crap, I'm no longer enjoying this. And it was just this insane time of pure survival mode. And these 2 weeks of being able to be at home at a lower level of efficiency, I guess you could even say, because I've been watching TV and reading a book and going for walks for the pure sake of wanting to go out and move my body outside. It really kind of showed me like, wow, we really went down a rabbit hole here. I'm not sharing this in as a look at how much I juggled. I'm sharing it in a sense of, hey, if you feel this way, it's okay to take time, because I'm going to be doing this moving forward. It's okay to take a couple days and course correct your training plan, where it's like, yeah, I have a run scheduled, but I really need to go spend time with my friends. I'm going to spend time with my friends. I was so focused on not steering from a training plan, not skipping a week for the podcast, over excelling at work, and there was nothing left for myself. There's all of the sayings about having a cup. You have to have your cup filled and then let people love your overflow. I was struggling to try to put water in my own cup, and I don't think that's the best way to do it, and I don't recommend that. But I do think it's important to, yes, have a goal. Yes, go for it. Yes, work your ass off to achieve that goal. But if there's a point where you're in a conundrum of negativity, or you're in a bad spot, or you're not enjoying what you're doing anymore and you're stuck, it's okay to take a couple days, do something with a friend, go for a walk, not a run, go stick your feet in the sand, have a beach day. And if you need to, I think, at least for myself, I just got so caught up following a plan, I forgot to be human and enjoy the whole process. And I'm very thankful for these 2 weeks and what it allowed me to do in regards to reflect, because I think there is a balance in life. It's not a strength of mine. I would like it to be, but it was definitely a learning lesson, something that I'm going to try to do, because I'm so much someone who gets so passionate about things, I throw myself into them, is trying to find quote unquote gauges. How a car has a gauge. I don't even know if that's the right word, but there's a fuel gauge, a speed gauge, where you can see how fast you're going or how much energy you have left in the tank. So you kind of start to do an inventory of like, how can I better balance all of this? And I found that I love all the things that I do. I just think I could do a better job of finding ways to recognize a survival mode situation or a burnout situation, so that I'm not doing something for X amount of months and then realizing, oh shit, the medal was cool, the 100-miler accolade was cool, but did I enjoy the 4 months by myself in the mountains? No, I did not. So trying to find gauges. So one of them for me is journaling. If one, it is crazy because I used to journal all the time, and I'd put down what I was grateful for. I'm just going to do like a heart dump is what I would call them, is you just kind of dump your emotions out into your journal. And it's, things, frustrations at work, frustrations in your social life, love life, training. And then from there, I was able to take that heart dump and recognize the positives from it, which then fueled me. That was how I kind of fueled my cup, or one of them at least, because I do refuel by myself. If my journal is, like, man, I'm in the shitter today, like recognizing, okay, so I have a run scheduled later. Are we okay with it? And just kind of having that conversation of, are we okay with the run, or do we need to do something else today to make sure that my heart is happy? So that's something I'm going to use as a gauge. And another thing that works for me that is just a reset is a walk. It seems so simple, but there's a beauty in spending 30 minutes of just no headphones. That's super important. Leave your phone at home. Bring it if you absolutely have to. And just going for a walk for the sake of going for a walk and moving your body outside. I don't know. I'm sure there's a science to it of just being present. Well, I know there's science being present and, being more in the now. But the point of the walk for me is it's just a natural reset button. So those are my two gauges I'm going to use in 2025. just to make sure that while I have all of these passion projects, not every bucket gets to be bucket of things I'm working on. I need to push myself to the extreme in every single one, right? As someone who's reflected upon this learning lesson, and if you found yourself that you did this year and you were worried about, well, my training plan says this, I need to follow it, follow it. But if you absolutely are not enjoying what you're doing and you need like a breather, that is okay. And so that's my point of bringing this up. I think it's okay to chase your goals and your dreams, but just don't lose yourself in the actual process so that you're no longer having fun. So that's what I mean by maintaining balance. And the second part of this is navigating perspective. There's a positive and negative to every situation. And I think it's up to us to look at which type of perspective of each situation that we're going to lean into and establish, for a lack of a better word. For me, I've found that, and just even listening to other episodes, I use the word opportunity a lot. It's quite funny because when I listen to previous podcasts, I say like, oh, what an opportunity, what a learning experience, what a learning lesson. And I'm sure you've heard the words, failures aren't actually failures, they're opportunities to learn, or it's not failure, it's discovering a way that doesn't work. And then uber famous Thomas Edison quotes about, I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. It was with the discovery of the light bulb, I believe. But when I'm talking about navigating perspective, I'm talking about you've just been dealt with the really, really shitty situation. How can we flip that and to make it a positive? And why I'm including this with the maintaining balance is I was really surprised at the end of the year when I recognized how much time I had spent training for something and didn't find joy in it. That was really a really hard thing, a really hard pill to swallow, because I really do want to enjoy my life and I really want to have the best life that I can. I work really hard. I live in a beautiful, amazing place. I have an amazing husband. And so it was a really quite difficult pill to swallow at the end of recognizing after this 100-miler specifically, because the come down after training for that 100-miler or 100K turned 100-miler, doing the race, and then mentally and physically going from one extreme to, okay, you need to let your body rest because it's like broken. That does a lot of, not damage, but that differentiation of lifestyles of going from one extreme to the other really does some shit to your brain. The come down, just the energy, your thought process. You put so much time and energy into something and you've accomplished it, and that's amazing. And now you're battling with like the quote unquote, now what? And so that was a huge pill to swallow. Realizing I had spent so much time chasing a goal, losing myself in the process, and realized I wasn't having that much fun doing it. And so I took it as, damn, this sucks. How can I not do this again? And that's why I'm bringing the navigating perspective back in, like, it's part of this, because I think when there are moments that we're not happy with the part of the outcome, like I completed 100 miles. I'm so thankful I did that. I had my husband there. It was amazing. So amazing. But what I'm trying to get at is I think you can get the medal and enjoy the process. I think you can do both. I don't think you have to sacrifice some of your happiness for 6 months or however many months you want to train to get the medal. I think you can do both. And so navigating perspective comes into is recognizing, okay, oh shit, that wasn't how I wanted that to go. I lost myself in this process. I was isolating the shit out of myself from my friends. I didn't even ask anyone if they wanted to come on a run with me in the mountains. I just assumed they didn't and went on my own. Like, just didn't even, every Saturday was in the trails rather than, why don't we just do every other Saturday in the trails and then do a long run with the running club. So I'm around people. Like, it was just so intense and immersed that I'm so thankful I got that medal, because I'm not sure what would have happened mentally if I would have done all of that work and not finished my 100-miler. But I think you can do both. I think you can enjoy the process by maintaining balance and getting the medal. And so the navigating perspective is basically recognizing, okay, shit, that's not how I wanted that to go down. But here's all of the things. Here's the positive that I'm going to flip this towards and learn from it. Here's all the opportunities where I get to learn for future races and maybe even share with someone. So how can I learn as Hannah? And then how can I also share what I've learned, aka amazing opportunity to have for this podcast. And so I think there's a beauty in taking the results you've gotten back from something or the current situation you're in, looking at it from a bird's eye view and acknowledging, okay, that's not how I wanted that to go. How can I make this a better experience moving forward and learn from this as an opportunity? And so that's either from a result after a race, a long day after work, a super shitty run. Like, it's not just in one component of your life. I think it can be in several different aspects. So, I have some examples. Let's say you're sitting in traffic, right? Super shitty. If you live in LA, I do. Traffic is just a part of the equation. And are you single-handedly going to make all of these cars move out of the road by honking your horn, by flipping people off, by getting aggressive? Are you making the situation better? No, you're not. I'll tell you that right now. How can we make this super shitty situation into a better one? Well, your 30-minute commute went to 45 or an hour. When was the last time you talked to your mom? When was the last time you talked to your grandparents? When was the last time you talked to your brother, your sister, your sibling? Why don't you give them a call? Why don't you make this 45-minute, hour long as an opportunity to talk to a family member, talk to a friend you haven't reached out to? Maybe there's a super rad podcast episode other than this one that you haven't listened to but want to learn more about. Maybe your new job is super exciting, but it requires you to drive, more than you want to. Pro, but there's some cons. Well, maybe you buy yourself a masterclass subscription and you learn all of these new trades and tricks while you're in the car. You went for a run. I'll always bring her back to running. I can't help it. You went for a run and it wasn't your best. And it wasn't your best because you ate a shit ton of food before you went out for your run. Emergency bathroom break, right? I know that's super specific, but maybe we don't do that next time. Learning lesson. Stepped in dog shit, right? Gotta wash your shoe off, gotta clean your shoe. Well, maybe let's take an opportunity. Are there other shoes you want to clean while you're doing this? Is there anything else you want to clean outside? Is there, other shoes that have gotten dirty and that you can also clean with this poop shoe? That's probably the most interesting example of all time. You swallowed a bug. Woohoo! Protein. Each situation that you have that's maybe not the best one or a shitty situation, by looking at the positive as either a learning opportunity or what can I use this time for to flip the script into a more positive light, is navigating perspective. And there's a pro and a con to every situation, every result, every outcome. And I think it's just up to you on which side of the coin you want to believe. If you want to believe the positive one or the negative one. And honestly, personally speaking, an area that helps with this navigation is gratitude. I think it's talked about, one of the topics that I talk about a lot, probably the most. I even created my own gratitude journal because I was like, I want to just emit this into the universe that I am so thankful. It's something I practice every day. It's why I ask each guest on the podcast before we end, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? And why this is so important in my opinion, and I know there's a plethora of studies shown, is that when you focus on what you already have and what you're thankful for, it's much easier for your brain to default into that positive light versus the negative one. And it's not going to happen right away. Like, let's say you pull out a journal and start writing all the things that you're thankful for. I think that's an amazing way to start. But there will be times where you'll get a shitty situation and a default to the crap, but you always have the ability to course correct it into a positive light and find the positive from it. And you'll find the more you course correct to that positive light, to that positive viewpoint, the easier it'll get for future. So, I think there was one situation where I actually came home and had stepped in dog shit. I live in this lovely, lovely, lovely neighborhood where the beach is that way, and then there's this marina and it's cement. And I think people walk their dogs and they don't pay attention, or they're on their phones, and dogs will literally shit in the marina. And I was just not paying attention and totally stepped in dog shit. And I was like, it smelled disgusting. And I put my shoes outside and I was like, yeah, this sucks, but I'm also going to take the opportunity to clean my shoes because they were dirty anyway. And so I went down, we have like an outdoor shower in like our apartment complex, cleaned them up, got some soap, got some rags. Now they look brand spanking new. So yeah, the stepping in the shit totally sucked. It's part of life, but I can also take the opportunity, well, my shoes were pretty dirty before. Can I make them look even cleaner? Finding that, as crazy as it might sound, finding that light in the dark situation where you can lean on moving forward. In parallel, having a gratitude journal or just spending 5 minutes every day, and as soon as your feet hit the floor, thinking about all the things that you're grateful for. Or I don't do this now because I have my own gratitude journal, but I had a Post-it note on my computer when I started working for the job that I was working for, and it was super negative. It's gotten a lot better, but the company culture was quite negative. And so I would put on my computer, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? And then I would talk to people and say, what was your win for the day? And that's how I would start a meeting. Or what was something that you were thankful for? And so I started to shift my mindset to make my job a little bit less negative and a little bit more positive. And then also making it my personal mission to not let any other negative work situations, or the fire alarm goes off in our apartment. Well, like that's totally sucks. Well, now I get an opportunity to go work from a coffee shop and maybe go try to do coffee. And just by having that level of mindset, it actually puts you in the driver's seat of how you want to view your day. Rather than negative things happening to you, you're like, I'm going to find the positive in this because I'm in control of my day, not external factors. And so it's really this revitalizing, vigorating. I don't know if that's a word. I'm having a hard time with my vocabulary words. I need to maybe start looking at a thesaurus. But it's really empowering. There it is. To have a negative situation happen that impacts your life and can just flip it right back over and say, I'm looking at the positive. And so by navigating perspectives, it really does go to show that failures aren't really failures. They're learning lesson opportunities for growth. Shitty situations on a massive spectrum, for the most part, those shitty situations are an opportunity for something new to happen. And just when you have that mindset and you instill it every day, you become back into the power seat of your own life. And I found that to be it's very fun. It's fun to have a nice, or funner. My English teacher would probably sadden the fact that I used funner in my podcast, but it's fun to have a fun life. And so when you're able to see things in a positive way, it can take a negative and shitty situation and make it better. So those are my two tidbits of knowledge that I've learned thus far in my 2 weeks of rest in 2024 after all of my races. I will say I did the Honolulu Marathon on the 8th of December, and I finished that. That was the most fun I've ever had on a race. I just purely went out. I was in Hawaii, my favorite place, one of my favorite places in the whole world, with my husband, one of my favorite humans in the whole world, doing one of my favorite things in the entire world, which was running, and getting to run with just the sun up. There's no pressure on timing. There's no pressure on performance. It was just, we're going to get up, we're going to run this race, and we're going to learn a lot about ourselves. And I think remembering of just why I started falling in love with running in the first place, is just what it does to my mind. And I got done with that race, and it was amazing. It was beautiful. It was the most fun I've had in a long time. And so that was a really cool thing to get to experience. So it's okay to have fun. Chase your goals, chase your dreams, but don't forget to have fun. Put that on my tombstone. So we'll jump into rapid fire questions. These are actually there's this application online, or even an application platform, where you type in rapid fire and it shoots out these super random questions. So these are a little bit different than the ones that I usually go for. But since I'm kind of doing a monologue here / interviewing myself, I figured we'd switch it up. So what is my go-to lazy dinner? Well, we have two types of lazy dinners, we being my husband and I. One that we call the Mr. Bruce, my husband's dad. And it's amazing because what he does is he pretty much takes all the things out of the fridge and puts it on the table. And you just sort of help yourself to every little tidbit. It's not even really making dinner. It's awesome. And I remember when I first started dating my husband, I was just like, what are we doing? We're just emptying the fridge. But there's something so beautifully natural about it. Carrots and hummus, check. Pickles, check. Like, it's all there. So there's never a lack of options. So that's the only part that makes that not lazy, is you have to put all that crap back in the fridge. So that's lazy dinner number one. Or lazy dinner number two is breakfast for dinner. If we want to have a breakfast for dinner, usually I have like a smoothie bowl, but my smoothie bowls are pretty top notch because I use frozen bananas, which makes it creamy. And then if I need to feel like I need to be on more of an island, I use our coconut-ish looking bowls or wooden bowls that we have, and I'll top it with like coconut and cinnamon. I recently got some freeze-dried raspberries, which are interesting. I don't even know how you freeze dry something, but the taste is there. It's really good. It's fascinating to eat because it's a raspberry. It's just been like the all the liquid's been sucked out really quickly, hence the freeze-dried, and it's crispy. So that's probably the go-to lazy dinner. Two options. What is one of my nicknames? One of them, I have like a quadrillion. So Hannah is my name. Welcome, if you didn't know that. The famous Hannah Banana is probably the most utilized by people that aren't the closest to me, actually. My high school coach used Hannah Banana a lot, but no one really calls me Hannah Banana anymore because there's just so many other nicknames. Han is a good one. My mom calls me B, so do my grandparents and my dad. Hannah Banana, Hannah B. That's why if you ever see, like, I have bees all over things, like I have a bee coffee cup, so that's B. My maiden name was Gilbert, so there were some cruel jokes in primary school. Primary, like I'm from Europe. Elementary school. But probably the biggest one from Gilbert was Gilbs. That was a common one. G never stuck. I got a B, but like, hey, G. Pretty rad. But yeah, so Hannah Banana, Gilbert. I think the biggest one now is Han. What is the stupidest dare you ever agreed to? I did a cinnamon challenge. That sucked. That hurt. Because you put the cinnamon challenge is basically you take a spoonful of cinnamon and you shove it in your mouth. The problem with that is how our airways work. So you can't breathe. If you breathe in, it shoots up your nose and starts burning your nasal cavity. And then you're trying to swallow, but it's so powdery dry that you can't. So it also gets stuck in your throat. It's quite dangerous. I don't recommend it. I didn't know how dangerous it was when I did it, but it also makes you want to gag. So that was the stupidest dare I've ever done. Don't recommend. What item is worth spending more money on? Holy shit. There's a lot to unpack there. I think I'm not really I'm pretty frugal, except when it comes to traveling and racing. That was what was so great about the Hawaii Marathon, is it was travel to Hawaii and run a race. Double whammy. So that's probably where I spend my money. traveling. It's important for me to travel, see the world, and racing because it's just fun. Is your bed made right now? Always. And when I mean always, I mean I can't leave the house unless my bed is made. My mom, she instilled this to me as a little girl. It's something that was really important when my husband and I moved in together, that he understood that the bed's got to be made. I know there are people out there who probably think I'm weird, but we all have our quirks. If you could afford any car, which one would you drive? I'm not a car person. When people talk about cars, I usually don't follow. I know like models and like makes, and like I live in LA, so you see the bouge factor for sure. I really like the super pimped out, but the gas sucks. See, it comes also back to gas. So then if you have to do electric, there's like a really cool electric utilitarian looking Lexus that's out there. It's bad ass. That'd be a fun car. I would love that car. Don't ask me what the make is though. I have no idea. Just type, if you're curious what I'm talking about, type in 2025 Lexus EV badass looking utilitarian car. Hopefully that pops up for you. Okay, last question. What are 3 things that you're grateful for? I'm also going to do not the 3 things that I said this morning in my journal. I'm going to do, I went for a workout today. I had on my weighted vest and I was just going up the California incline in Santa Monica, like right on the precipice of Pacifica Palisades. And man, that was so beautiful. Like there are times where you have these pinch me moments and it's like, holy shit, the palm trees, the sun, people surfing. That was really cool. Very fortunate for that. Second thing, I really am excited about the things I learned in 2024 and how to be more mindful with having fun in 2025. I think I kind of forgot. Well, I already talked about it, but I sort of forgot to have fun. And that sucks. And I'm looking forward to having more fun in 2025. But I think you have to go through some dips in order to learn. And I'm also thankful that I had those 2 weeks of time to recognize. And then the third thing, I always say my husband, so I'm trying to think. Honestly, I know I mentioned this earlier. I'm really, really grateful that I did the Honolulu Marathon. I signed up for that in summer of 2024 when I was driving to the mountains every weekend to train by myself. And I was like, I'm going to need something that's going to make me super excited and happy. And Hawaii, without a doubt, every time. So my husband and I got married there. Like it's such an impactful place for my like soul and my mental health. But that race day where I had no pressure on performance, I put no pressure on myself for time. That race really put into perspective of why I got into running in the first place. And I needed that. I needed that big time. So I'm very thankful for that. And should I do and with that, the 2025 episode 75 has finished. No, just kidding. But thank you so much for tuning in and or watching this episode of the Do Epic Shit Today podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please feel free to share it with a friend who could benefit. Maybe there's someone who's also kind of feeling a little bit ragged or a little worn down from 2024. You are not alone. I am here. And so if someone could benefit from hearing from this episode, feel free to share it. I hope that the biggest thing for me with this episode and with this podcast is to help as many people as possible. At the end of the day, if I've helped one person, then I've done my job. So yeah, if there's someone who you think could benefit from listening to this episode, feel free to share. As always, I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you have a wonderful week.